Hi, welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host, Iggy. Yay. Thank you for that. Guys, today we're going to take a look at some things provided by Classic Toy Soldiers. One is a set that includes this Chihan 97 medium tank and these figures, which are based off of old Marx molds from years ago. And then a pair of Chihan tanks in a khaki color. First up, let's talk about the armor here. I think that if I could arrange it at a future date, I would take some flat lacquer and clear lacquer and spray these tanks because they're very shiny. And I don't care for that look so much. Each one is affixed with the rising sun on the side of the vehicle. And of course, the vehicle is not as detailed as a model. I've showed you a couple models of these tanks in the past, and these are not quite as detailed. There are also some things about it where they took some liberties. For instance, at first blush, the turret looks like it's center mounted and on the superstructure, when in reality, it's just slightly to the left. Let's take a look so you can see what I'm saying. You see that? It's just a little bit to the left. Now, it actually should have been a little bit more to the left, and I'll show you an illustration that makes that point in just a moment. This tank had a machine gun in the back and one in front, and there's a lot of different calibers of main gun on these. They had a 4.7 millimeter and also a 5.7 millimeter. They also had a short barrel, which you see here, and a long barrel. The long barrel had more punching power because you could create greater muzzle velocity with the longer barrel. This railing at the top was the antenna for the radio. So you might look at that and go, oh, isn't it nice they provided a railing? That was actually a functional part of the tank. All right, so let's take a look at that illustration that I promised you. And I have it over here. I actually saved the page. You guys would be proud of me. You know how I fumble about with stuff like this. And this is a pamphlet I bought back in 1979 called Imperial Japanese Tanks, and it's by Paul M. Rowland. And it's basically a pamphlet, but it's pretty complete considering, the size of it. Here's an illustration of the tank, and you can see it's quite pronounced. Why is it blurring out like that? The turret is far to the left side. Well, I guess if you were sitting in the tank, it would be on the right side. And these tanks, the commander would be in the turret with one other man, and then there'd be two men in the front part of the tank, which you can see here. You see two doors. That's where the other two crewmen sat, one being the driver, of course. And you notice that the turret is not quite so off-centered as it is in this illustration. See, here you can't tell when you're looking at side view, but when you look from the top, you can see that it's quite different. Okay. This was a handy guide, by the way. If you can still get it, I don't know if it's still available because it was first printed in 1975. So, so let's take a look at some vehicles. Oh, here I have an illustration of a long barreled Type 97, which you see here. This one doesn't have the radio antenna. And it shows it has a 4.7 centimeter main gun. But it has the long barrel, so it would have a greater muzzle velocity. Okay. Now these tanks were developed in the 1930s, and at the time, the Japanese army was quite pleased with them because they were reliable. They had good overland capabilities, and they basically wanted them for infantry support roles. And they fulfilled that role quite well in China. However, when they came up against Sherman tanks for the first time, the Sherman must have seemed like a monster compared to this, and they didn't do very well at all. The Shermans would make quick work of them. But the Japanese had become complacent and they never really came up with another design. They started to make larger tanks towards the end of the war, but the war ended before they could get them out in the field, so to speak. It's hard to find Japanese tanks, as you know. Ultimate Soldier and Forces of Valor, I don't think made Japanese tanks that I'm aware of. Or did they make the Italian tank? So the Italians only fielded a couple armor designs, and that was it. The Japanese had a lot of tankettes. You can see one in this illustration in the background. That, of course, is solely for infantry support, because if placed against a Sherman tank, it wouldn't have been comfortable for those guys in that turret, let me tell you. So, Classic Toy Soldiers offers this OD green tank with these green Japanese reproductions or recasts, if you will, of Marx Imperial forces. My favorite one when I was a boy was this one here. And I think he's carrying a Type 97 or 96. And it was a 6.5 millimeter. They also had a 7.5 millimeter one. But I always thought that was a really cool pose. And this radio operator, for those of you who have a Battleground playset, he almost looks identical to the American radio operator that is posed just like this. I also like this guy with the flag. I always thought he was pretty cool. Now this figure here, everyone, when I showed one of these before, everyone said, oh no, he's not surrendering. He's got a grenade behind his neck. Well, I'm going to show you now that he does not have a hand grenade behind his neck. Sorry, it seems to be going out of focus quite a bit here. Or is that my eyes doing that? His hands are clasped together. There's no hand grenade. And this is an unlikely pose because everyone knows that the Japanese seldom would surrender. So it seems like a wasted mold. They could have. This actually would be an excellent pose if he was holding a pair of binoculars. And why is it so blurry, guys? Guess I need a new camera. Okay, let's see what else we got. We have a Japanese with a very peculiar Japanese submachine gun. I looked it up, and there actually was a machine gun that looked like this submachine gun, and that's right here. It's got that strange looking clip on the side like that, and of course he's been shot. His helmet is tilted to the front there. So you're saying, well, they should be khaki color. Well, that's interesting because when looking into Imperial Japanese uniforms, I discovered that their uniforms were green and that they had tropical uniforms that were khaki, but the regular Japanese Army uniform was a green color, actually a darker green than what you see here. So let's take a look at that. Here is the more khaki looking one. This is a tropical. It has a slight green to it, but this would be a tropical uniform of a Japanese soldier from 1942. Here's the officer in the tropical kit. Okay, I do have the War Department's handbook on Japanese forces, and we'll show you that. Here we go. And you can see he's dressed in green. Shows his equipment. And that's just their coats and whatnot. Here's an officer, and he's also in green. And that's from Handbook on Japanese Forces, printed in 1944 by the War Department. And then I have a book here that we should share with you. And here's a tropical. Is that my hand in the way? That's my hand, sorry. I'm shaking like crazy, guys. Sorry. So if you have them in green, they'd probably be a little bit darker than this. And you could also have them in khaki too, so it's no big deal. I prefer the khaki ones myself. And as far as the tank goes, I actually like the darker green. I showed you one of these tanks before, but it did not have this rising sun sticker on the side of it. So I kind of like these better. And these came from BMC Victory Buy. I guess it's their shop, or Buy Victory or something like that. But it came from BMC, and this one came directly from Classic Toy Soldiers along with these troops. It came in a set, which was $29, I think. But if you're just looking for the tanks, you're welcome. You can buy them, of course, like this. Now, this set came 2 per a box. Let me see. I got the box over here. I'll just show you what it looks like. See, it just came in this box. And it says BMC Toys CTS Japanese Chihan tank. 2 pieces. So you can buy a set of those. I do recommend them because, as you know, it's difficult to get Japanese armor, having been overlooked by Forces of Valor and Ultimate Soldier. Oh, even Rocco mini tanks didn't make any of these tanks that I'm aware of. They focus mostly on German, Soviet, and American and British tanks. They didn't. I don't remember them making any French tanks either, or Italian. So it is difficult to get a hold of these things, but it is very possible. And BMC will sell these as well as Classic Toy Soldier. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you this time. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these Japanese tanks and Japanese infantry. For some of you, it might bring back some memories of when you had these figures as a boy. The molds for these are very old now. They're probably like 60 years old. I imagine they're suffering a little bit from mold fatigue at this point. Maybe they're getting moldy. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Get out of here. Anyway, that's all I got for you. And I'd like to say sayonara, but I won't because I'm not sure I'm saying it correctly. So I'd like to say thank you for joining the Iggy Army and coming along for a ride. And I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these Marx recasts along with the CTS Japanese medium tanks. You're welcome. You know, I couldn't avoid that, right? It was mandatory. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I'm not sure what I'll be presenting next time, but I hope you come back to check that out too. Thanks, guys. Let's meet up at Woolies at the dining counter and get a banana split. When was the last time you had a banana split? I don't think they make them anymore. It used to be quite a common dessert at many restaurants. I haven't seen a banana split in decades, so it's been a while. Okay, guys, take care.